Hello, friends, fans, and first-timers. I'm just popping in to warn you that we discussed the Kyle Rittenhouse trial on this episode. Some of you will remember that I gave a similar warning on last week's episode. So just like last week, if you want to jump over that section and go right to the jokes, then skip from minute 25 to minute 38. And thanks, as always, for watching and being a fan. Intro goes here.
This is a placeholder song, until we replace the old song. This is a placeholder song for Is This Anything?
Looks like Brett's having an ish.
You know, for something called silent reflux, you should talk about it.
I wonder what Brett's ish is.
Where
Having an ish.
Well, where I get like an insight now into what goes on when he says, "Be there at 3," and then he's not, and now I'm like, oh, he just wanders around the living room. That's what he's up to.
I mean, clearly he's trying to do something with his setup or something.
I think he's going to probably set up in the second room. He had just looked at the TV. Mm-hmm. He's trying to see figure out what happened in the last episode of Game of Thrones. He's a little behind. He's like, oh, is there dragons? Okay, so that's why he checked that. Now he walked back into his room.
He's probably watching a little OAN in preparation for listening to my liberal bullshit. He's like, I need a little palate cleanser before I listen to Jarret's fucking woke nonsense. Just give me the good stuff, OAN. Oh, yeah, okay.
Average it out.
Now I feel better.
I like hearing from both sides. It's funny because as much information as I want to take in, it's like, OAN, I'm like, that's not information.
Rob,
that's not the other side.
Yeah. Rob, what do you think we should do about the problem of right-wing propaganda in this country?
That's a really tough
think
question.
about it, and I'm just like, it feels like such a weird nebulous thing, because if I say no propaganda disguised as news, then let's say we get another right-wing administration that then uses that law to say that, you know, MSNBC is propaganda, and
exactly.
New York Times and CNN and the Washington Post, you know?
This is my current problem with even such big corporations as Twitter banning someone like Donald Trump. It's as necessary as it seemed at the time, because of his reach and power and the things that he was saying that were blatantly false. As an entity like that, it's like you're not allowed to really decide who is saying what and what's like, not only what is true and not true, but then who crosses the threshold into, oh, well, this is too many people. You have too many followers. This is too dangerous. It's all become very subjective. And when it suits me and it fits my ideological thoughts, which this did, I don't want to be silent and go, that's okay, because it's too easy when it flips the other side. Someone's just talking and they're like, oh, now this liberal left-wing person that I'm totally in agreement with and is making a lot of sense has now just been banned from XYZ place. And I'm like, no, you know what? I think we have to let the chips fall as they may.
But that's what we're dealing with right now, is letting the chips fall where they may. And there's and right-wing propaganda and misinformation is such an awesome problem. It's massive. And to then be like, well, the problem is that we've been trying to regulate this too much. It's like, that's the opposite of the problem. This is what not regulating it looks like, you know?
Anyway, sorry, Brett, are you good? I was just chatting till you were here.
I've been here for a while.
No.
Oh, yeah,
You've been chatting long past that.
Yes, I understand that. So, thus, the check-in with you. Was my order of operations wrong?
Oh, no. I thought you were saying, like, oh, it's time to check in with Brett now that he's finally here. I was just chatting until you got here, and I was like, I've been here. you were chatting away.
I will rub up against this. I'm like, what's the right word? What's the phrase? Not rub up against this. That sounds sexy.
Push back? Is that it?
Push back against this. Yeah.
Push back against me? What I'm saying?
No, against Brett, because you've been there. We've seen you. But at no point have you been like, "Hey, what's going on, guys?" I saw some typing, and so in my brain, I was like,
well, they haven't acknowledged that I'm here. They're still talking. Let Rob finish his point. But I was just making a joke. I wasn't really. Okay. I don't think it's something I'm gonna push back against.
What about rub up against?
That sounds like something for Twitter.
Well, if you're talking about your butt, pushing back against would also be sexual. Yeah, that's like, hey, push back against me.
Yeah,
that's a thing.
It's a big fine woman.
Yeah, that's
Why don't you push against me from in front?
There we are.
That's a Salt and Pepper song, right? Push it, my butt
against you. Something.
Yeah.
Hey, check it out. ITA, everybody.
Woo!
Hey,
I decorated.
Wow.
Rob was actually available at 2, but he was doing that.
Oh no, they're almost here.
Hey, Rivers is
Hey,
here.
Rivers. I was wondering who that was.
All right. I was explaining to Rob before you got here, Brett, that I'm in a little bit of a mood. I'm having a reflux episode. I don't know where it came from. I've been eating all the right things. Reflux. Acid reflux. And so
I'm reflux issue.
They're acting up.
They're not acting up. That's the problem.
I didn't even react.
Would you indulge me for a moment? Because I'm thinking about I have this series, this web series that I've started, but I haven't started releasing them yet. Do you guys mind if I just like show you a little bit like what I'm working on real quick?
Sure.
I love that idea.
I don't mind.
All right. This is episode 5 of I'm Not Crazy, You're Crazy. All right.
Okay.
All right.
Oh, his glasses are on.
Give me 1 second.
All right. Where'd Leedy go now?
Hey.
Hi,
For some
wait a
reason,
sec.
this episode is like herding cats. Like as soon as we get one person, someone else dips out. Okay. Are you guys ready?
I heard that first as hurting cats, and I was like, yeah,
cats.
that's mean. This episode is just like punching cats in the face.
Very satisfying. Okay. Guys, Leedy, where did...
Well, the reason we
They
don't
have
mind,
keys or something? Keys?
Sorry, I had to get my iPad because that's part of my job.
Mm-hmm. Yes, of course.
She came back.
Okay. Are you ready, guys?
Yes.
Okay. This is a clip, an episode, whatever, of my new web series, I'm Not Crazy, You're Crazy. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Now, on a recent episode of Is This Anything, I gave our good friends and co-host of the show, Brett Druck, I gave him the business. I gave him the business because I thought his video setup looked extra gothic, extra hot topic-y, like he was a vampire, like he was zooming from a crypt, like he was auditioning to be an understudy for Chris Angel. And I was made to feel those criticisms were insane, that they were out. Jarret, he looks exactly the same as you did before. So I present to you my evidence that I am not crazy, you are crazy. This is a screenshot of a recent episode of Is This Anything that we did with Brett Druck. Look at that guy. Look at him. Look at all happy and full of life. Black shirt, black background, all black everything. But could a human being say that this was a gothic looking entity? Certainly not. This, however, is the episode in question. Look at that! Look at the difference! This is a dead man that I'm looking at here, devoid of life.
Same
Look at that.
person.
Can you put them side by side?
Have a great
possible?
time. Look at that. Potentially.
I will.
I should have done that beforehand.
I will admit, I think there are more green tones to the second image. So
I quite agree. Unphotoshopped, undoctored.
and the green tones, which I can tell from the curtain, right in this area, it's got a little bit more that, when mixed with his complexion, gives him more of a a crypt keeper, as you put it.
If you guys
This
don't
concludes
mind,
the pilot episode of I'm Not Crazy, You're Crazy. Thank you.
it's great.
I rest my case.
I actually am working on a pilot episode. If you guys
Oh,
don't,
shit.
Yeah,
Of course. I'm so. This is such a.
Jesus.
How fascinating! There's 2 pilot episodes of web series is happening. Great episode. This is cool.
Thank you.
What's the plan? Are you gonna put this on?
I don't know. So
YouTube,
far, that's
or-
the only one that I have that I've needed to do. But I figure if other things come up, and I'm sure they will, then I'll have more grist for the mill, as they say.
Yes, of course.
Okay, this is a series that I'm working on called.
Okay.
Yeah, sure, dude. You're not crazy. You're right. Totally. You seem normal. You seem very sane, and this is something that a sane person would do. And the nominal differences between those photos do not make you look crazy at all. We're cool. And
That's the whole title. We're still doing the title.
This is still the title.
And we're always on your side, and we support you. And please, if you were to take out some aggression that you clearly do not have, start somewhere else, because we are on your side.
And stay away from my family.
That reminds me, I'm actually working on another series.
Oh no, 3 series?
It's called Nominal Differences? Are you insane? Nominal difference. Barely noticeable? Really? Do I need to share it again? Do I need to show you the pictures again? You psychopaths. Jacques Hughes. All right, that's the working title.
Oh, that's funny because I'm working on one.
Are you?
I would just say, if I were saying that maybe there was some difference, which I'm not. You're totally right and normal. I would say that it looks like there's some internet compression on Zoom, and those are both pretty low quality things. So it's pretty crazy. I mean, not crazy. It's pretty normal. It's pretty normal to point out that there's a difference in image quality.
Mm-hmm. I like the title of that one.
Connection.
I like the title of that one. I like anything that starts with "I was just saying." What is going on, everybody?
I want to hear from Brett and Leedy. I've heard some crazy things.
You guys are on tour.
We are on tour. We were almost off tour. The bus. Nobody could have seen this coming. The bus broke down. Leedy jumped into action and was like, "We need to get off the bus." And I was like, "All right, cool." We were hanging out in the sleep coffin, and she's like, "You're not doing the things to get off of the bus." Like, I wasn't putting on my shoes or anything. And she was like, "No, you don't stay in a smoking vehicle." Like, she was like urging us. Yeah. And so John pulled over, and then it was like, there was white smoke coming out.
Oh my God.
Yeah, not as bad as black smoke. Everybody just pretty quickly after that delay jumped into action, and I was like, "Oh, I've been broke for long enough that I've driven enough cars that I'm pretty sure I know what this is. And how to, fix it for now."
Is it that there was a new pope in the trunk? In the in
the hood? Yeah. So the bus broke down. Everybody was just like, it was the best we've ever worked together. Like a well-oiled machine.
Unlike the
bus. So I was pouring water bottles into the reservoir. There was obviously like a leak in the radiator cooling system, or a crack or something like that. But it was enough that we were able to drive in short spurts of like 4 or 5 minutes. We had to make an executive decision. Do we go to like an AutoZone where they'll have the parts definitely, or a Valvoline where we're like, this is not their job. They just change oil and they can replace coolant. So we had a whole plan of attack. Like, hey, listen, we think we need new coolant. Also, we might have a leak. Because by all means, they should have just been like, they were perfectly in the right to be like, you need to go to a mechanic. We'll give you a number, and you got to figure out how to tow yourself there. But we can't help you here. John was keeping the temperature low, going at a low speed. Also, the heat stops working, and it's snowing out, and we are a bus in the slow lane with our hazards on, and I'm wiping the windows to dehumidify them because the dehumidifier is just icing up the windows on the inside.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was quite trying, but somehow we by the goodwill of these people, the Valvoline, who were just like, yeah, we're not supposed to do this, but we're gonna help you figure out how to fix this and what the problem is, and even just like, we were like, oh, well, I guess we can Uber to this auto store, and they were like, we'll just drive and get you the parts. Like, one of us will go.
It was also snowing.
It was also snowing, yeah.
Hi, Steve.
So somehow they were able to find a replacement hose just to get us up to Cincinnati. So we were able to make it in time for the gig, and just like, they didn't even, they were just incredible, just like goodwill people. It was like, without us being extremely lucky in that we were able to make it to this Valvoline, that it was close, that it was open on a Sunday, and all these people just being like, yeah, we see that this is obviously like a band or something, and they very quickly identified that we had no idea what we were doing, and we were like, they were just like, we're gonna help. We were able to make the show, and so we got real lucky. But
That's amazing.
Shout out to Brandon and Olivia
Woo!
at undisclosed location, because they technically were not supposed to do what they did.
Mm-hmm.
That's good on them. Did you also? Sorry.
One of our fans is a regional manager of a Valvoline watching this, and he's like,
What the hell?
Get in my office! How far away were you from the place where the gig was when the bus broke down?
2.5 hours.
2.5 hours away.
We had just got it started. Yeah.
That's bananas. That's insane.
Yeah.
I have so many questions.
I think that
Ask
was
them.
Nah, you know what? I realized that the 2.5 hours, that was it.
So Brett Leedy was telling this. I forget who was telling the story. They said, "You're not doing the things to get out of this bus. We gotta get out of the bus." What was going on in your brain there, Brett? Were you like, I'm comfortable, I don't want to go outside, it's too cold outside, this isn't as serious as everybody thinks it is? Like why were you not attacking the situation like everybody else was?
A lot of boy who cried, oh shit.
Yeah.
And so just kind of numb to emergencies or things that are worth taking action for. I would say 9 times out of 10, if I am laying down or my eyes are closed and somebody yells, oh shit, if I ignore it, I made the right decision. By not having to focus on that or move or stop doing whatever I was doing.
That's funny.
But once I heard 2 people say, oh shit, I was like, oh, I guess I should respond.
I don't think this is Kevin Sorbo tweeting. I think this is a real.
And also, I mean, I was kind of in the wrong because from my experience, we had a car that pulled up outside of our house while I was living in Albuquerque, and it started smoking, and the person wasn't getting out, and my parents ran out like, you got to get out of the car when it's smoking. And we got the person out with seconds before their car burst into flames.
Oh my
so that had been my
Wowie.
previous experience with cars that were smoking. Granted, that was like black smoke. This was white smoke. So from then on, when it was smoking and we were inside, we were just kind of like, all right, I guess we gotta get out. But that very first time, we were worried.
That is bananas. And how many more days are you guys on the road with this Frankenstein's machine?
I think 9 days.
9 more days.
But we've got it. I mean, it is still a Frankenstein machine. We do have the correct part in there now.
All right,
For those
that's
who
good.
don't know, the tour bus is a actual like mini school bus that has been refitted, repurposed to fit the touring
prisoner
people.
transport vehicle.
A prisoner transport vehicle, but for those
No,
who
he said repurposed.
Oops, sorry.
Repurposed school bus, currently a prisoner transport vehicle. Yeah, I remember I saw somebody put the Instagram story about the bus being smoking, and I showed that to Kirsten, and I was like, I could be there right now. I asked Steve to not put me on this leg.
Honestly, it was like, this seemed like a totally like, okay. I mean, when we were looking up, Rivers is looking up rentals and seeing like, can we get an Uber back to the closest city in Canton, get a rental, unload all the stuff, get to the show, like doing all that. When do we pick up the bus again? When a mechanic will be open that we can get it looked at, a mechanic that will even look at a customized job, you know. It seemed like it was going to be a nightmare, and because everybody took action and everybody did some, you know, was like, okay, I'm refilling the bottles, and Bander's keeping it, you know, low speed, and
nice.
because everybody jumped in the action, like it set us back 2 hours total. We were able to get, like, luckily the Valvoline, their whole thing is don't get out of the car, like stay in there, we'll do the oil change while you're in the car. We were like, they're not going to have a waiting area. They did have a waiting area with a bathroom that was heated, which was great.
Oh wow. That's
Just all turned out well. So once we got to the show was great. Everybody was kind of like riding high, like we made it.
Yeah.
It's all worked out well. We all did our part. So it was something that like was stressful during it, but actually ended up being great.
That's great.
You know,
That's awesome.
But it could have been bad.
Did you tell the audience about it?
No, actually, we could have and probably should have done that. That would have been interesting.
A little yes we
Yeah.
can tin story. It reminds me of that that joke. It was retold on some TV show. That's the joke of like the band breaking down and they got all their instruments and they're trudging through the snow and they come across this like house and they go and they look inside the window and it's like a Norman Rockwell painting in there. There's a fireplace and a family and the bands are just wet and they're muddy and they're holding their instruments and they look and they're like, how do people live like this?
I like that film. Yeah.
Where's that from? I remember hearing it from like a TV
I've
show.
heard it like 4 different ways.
Yeah, me too.
You know, 4 different places.
Anyway.
There is we had a bit of a breakdown happen over here, much less dramatic, of course. But Kirsten and I both got back in town around the same time, me from Toronto and her from the West Coast. And Kirsten was like, hey, the floor in our bedroom is warping. And, you know, this is an older building. And so I was
through
like,
time? Oh, you mean like water and stuff. Sure. Okay, keep going.
Yeah,
it's an older building and a newer building. Depends on what part of the warp you're in.
It's pre-war and post-modern.
And during war.
Doing the time warp.
Keep on hearing racism coming from like overt racism, like 1960s racism.
But just on this floorboard.
And, you know, it's an older building, so I noticed some of the tiles being like a little bit not together. And she was like, no, it's like really warping. And so I finally like put down my bags and everything. I walk over there and we have I would say about 1.5 foot peak on our floor right now.
Oh.
Yeah,
Whoa.
and it sort of like wobbles, like so at times it's down and times it's up a little bit. At the highest, it's like I would say about like that big. You know,
wow,
it's bananas. Yeah, and so I put in a work order, and it just got like steadily worse through the week. I don't know why they did not come immediately, but you know, when Friday rolled around, I called them again, and I was like, I really think you guys should come take a look at this. Finally, Sunday, this guy came and he was like, oh yeah, your radiator's leaking, and he like took this thing off, and there's like this giant pool of water underneath our radiator. Not only that, but like it's leaking in a way that's like leaks are sometimes where you have to watch it for a while and you're like, oh, there's the drop of water coming down. Yeah. This was like bink, 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 bink. You're like, yeah, this is a massive problem.
You're like on the toilet, just like this, you're just like leaned over, just like taking a crap like that. I think there's an issue.
I think it might be a problem here.
I like to imagine. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, my joke was dumb. You go ahead.
Oh, I like to imagine that the guy comes in. He's like, "Oh, I've seen this before. Have you ever? Do you know Ridley Scott?"
Damn, I don't understand.
It's an Alien reference. Like there was
like the head.
The floor was gonna give birth to an alien. It was my fault.
It's okay.
Your joke would probably be great, Jarret.
Maybe you should tell it.
just by to say my dinner roll rolled away. That was my joke. They were both terrible.
My dinner roll rolled away. Glad we got a second shot.
Ends of the spectrum for terrible. Mine was too clever, and yours was just
way too corny, dumb. Yeah. So the radiator's fixed, but now we just have like this little mini skate park in our bedroom. Awesome. I'll send whoever edits this episode. I'll send some pictures so we can throw it in here for the audience. But yeah, and so they got a floor guy who came and was like, oh yeah, this is going to be like 2 days of work. We have to completely replace your floor. And so we're going to just live with it for a couple of weeks until like a time when we can move everything out of the bedroom and then let people work in there for 2 days. Yeah. But until then, fucking surf's up. In here, guys. Wait, I like that.
You should tell people it's like a modern art museum and charge to get in or something like that. Oh, it looks like a regular apartment, but
it's a feature. I don't know what the point is, but it's cool.
You could call it Warp Tour.
Nice. I like that.
Warp floor. And of course, there's like people from the past that keep popping their heads up out of there.
Oh, so pesky.
All right. Anything to add to this little catch-up session, y'all?
Rob, did you go, or is that what I came in on?
No, I didn't really catch up.
We don't ask Rob that question anymore. That's a hate crime for
That
Rob.
is a, yeah.
I think we should start giving prompts to Rob.
Props?
Like what?
Oh,
Yeah,
actual props?
like,
Like physical things?
Rob,
No,
And then-
prompts.
is
Oh,
point nine
prompts.
repeating the same as 1, Rob?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Did you
I love that.
specifically like the tree lines in 1917?
I did enjoy them. It's just that it proved that the lack of continuity in the film. That's all it did.
The
Yeah.
tree lines were a lot like the floor in my apartment.
I like the idea that we'll be like, and then so we came together and everything worked out. Hey, Rob, Kyle Rittenhouse? Instead of what's going on with you?
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Okay. So what I was gonna say, funnily enough, was that I kind of forgot how like normal people talk. I guess because all I want to talk about are ideas. I don't want to talk about things. So here they are being like, oh, so, we got a new bed and, ours is a sleep number bed. Oh, that's interesting. And I'm just like, wouldn't it be funny if, and I'm just like, all I want is just to pick things apart and discuss and think. And they're like, how are you? I'm like, I just told you how I am. Right? That's what's going on in here. I could just talk about the Kyle Rittenhouse case for 2 hours. But if you're like, what did you
We could
do
that
today?
For next year. That could be all your check-ins.
We might. The country might. They're supposed to come back. I don't know. I think just went into deliberations today. So whenever this episode comes out, we'll already know whatever happened.
Wow.
But I think the jury is
Can
deliberating.
we film our reactions now, just in case?
I already know what my reaction's going to be.
Do it, go. Yesterday, Brett and I found out that we wind down very differently than everyone else. Because
Everyone else on the tour?
yeah, because we were like watching the Kyle Rittenhouse trial just at night, just because it was really interesting to us. We
Yeah.
were watching like old YouTube videos and things, watching him testify, watching him get questioned and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And then we turn and we just see like Steve and everyone else is like really anxious, and we're like, what's going on? And they're like, this just makes my anxiety go crazy. And we're like, what? We're having
yeah.
such a nice
I
time.
am with
We're
them.
ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
We were like, oh, it's so cool that they stayed up to like wind down with us. But in fact, us winding down was keeping them up. That's why
Yeah.
they were up that late.
Wow. That is fascinating. If there's anything I would love to like break down is this dynamic, because there is something very strange about this particular court case that I'm not seeing. Like, I'm enjoying it perhaps the way that you guys are. I'm like, this is fascinating. And, I definitely watched the entirety of his testimony. And I was watching the closing statements. I just watched large chunks of it. And I'm just like, oh, this is court. This is interesting. But there are other people who are just like, this is the worst thing. Like, they're just so upset about everything that's happening. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know.
Well, my issue is that I have a hard time finding it interesting when it's like, wow, looks like another example of systemic oppression and white supremacy in our justice system. How interesting, I'm just like, I'm furious.
I would make a distinction, and I don't know if this holds true, but it does for the people that we were watching it with, and including Jarret. I think it's anxious for people who want the prosecution to be victorious here and can detect that they do not have a strong case and that they are not approaching the case very well. It looks to me, just reading body language and confidence, like the prosecution is doing some really petty stuff. The way that one of the lawyers is talking to Kyle is just like very
condescending.
like,
and,
I'm like, are you trying to come off as a douchebag? Because you're doing that,
dude, it is.
And
it's
so I think
so funny to watch.
I think if you're like, I really want the prosecution to win this, I think seeing that and just being like, oh no, I think that would make me anxious. That's my theory.
I mean, that's part of the reason why I'm not watching. It's just because I'm like, I know I'm going to be mad at this no matter what.
The way I saw the prosecutor, he was like a mentalist who was really bad at being a mentalist. That's what it seemed like. He's like, so you had the gun, kind of like the guns in video games? And he's like, no, not particularly. Nope. So you, and he just keeps on like every
There
single
are guns
angle.
in video
there
games?
are guns in video games. It's a gun. It's a gun. You went
yes.
there. You went there to kill people. You went there to kill black people, white people, any person. You went there with a gun. You went there. You went there because you wanted to use the gun. Okay, you just went there, but you had the gun, but you were there to put out fires and help. Okay, you were.
And then Kyle's like, yes, and he's like, okay, can you just wait for me to finish the question? I would appreciate that, sir.
Yeah, that part.
I think my favorite part was the part, what was it? He said, he was like, and you were shouting friendly as if they were not friendly to you. And he was like, well, they were throwing rocks at us. And when I said friendly, then they were not throwing rocks at us.
Yeah, the whole friendly thing was so bizarre, and like Kyle handled a lot of things really well. I'm not sure if he handled that the best, because my explanation would be like, I don't know who these people are. You don't say. He was like, you said friendly because they weren't your friends, right? And you're like, well, I don't know what that means. You say friendly because you don't know the situation and you're just trying to let people know that you mean no harm. That's why you say friendly, not because you're like, and you said friendly because you knew that these people did not like you. And you're like, I don't know if that's necessarily true. It's so fast. But I know that this is what trials are. So this is one point I'll make that slightly more like in the fray of the discussions back and forth. Ryan Grimm had made this point, which I really appreciated. And I don't want this to be like undersold, is that the perception that the judge is, like in the pocket of the defense or definitely in favor of Kyle or trying to whatever, like going, if he could zig instead of zag, he's always kind of going in the direction of Kyle for whatever reasons. Ryan Grimm had pointed out, he says, this is a very public trial. He's like, you want a judge to be as keenly aware of the defendant's rights as this judge is. Like whatever your feelings about this court case may be, the prosecution always oversteps and the judge always allows it, because the prosecutors and the judge are practically one and the same. If you think that the judge is being too cozy with the defense, that's the kind of justice system that we deserve. That's the kind of justice system that we need. We shouldn't be looking at this saying, we need more fascism. We should be looking at this and saying, this, if you believe that he's being too, in the favor of the defense, this is what a judge should be doing. Pushing back on the prosecution, stopping them when they overstep, yelling at them if need be, because that's what justice is. And we need to extend that to people who are caught up in the justice system far more often. Yeah.
I'm going to rub up against your butt on that one, Rob, because if I'm remembering correctly, and, I am going so hard on the opposing side of this discussion here. If I remember correctly, this judge has a lot of examples of him not being cool to other defendants. And that's part of the reason why people are like, what is going on here? Like, this is a judge who did X, Y, or Z against people of color, and yet now he's a sweetie pie, friendly grandpa in this trial. And this is like what we were talking about on the last episode. Like, yeah, this would be great if this was the way that every judge, treated every person. But the reason why we're mad is because it is not the case.
I definitely do not. I just don't have that other thing. This is actually the first I'm hearing of that argument. My assumption was that that's what the argument would be, because perhaps he's been a bit of a hard ass when it comes and had maybe laid down some harsh, what's it called, like terms or punishments for people. Sentences. There you go. For people who've committed crimes in the past, maybe people of color. So like that argument tracks. I just don't know specifically what those things were or what those cases were. I'll just go ahead and grant it. That's probably true.
That's going in true?
Sure, I will grant it for the sake of the argument.
True. That's a very small pile as well.
I'm going to grant it for the sake of the argument. That's what I'm granting. And for the sake of the argument, I go, okay. But I think that does not erase the concept, the point that Ryan Grimm was making, which was like, if there's anything to take away from this, it's not, because when you stack two tweets against each other of a liberal saying, we need to, stop mass incarcerations and we need to get everybody out of federal prisons and all that stuff, rah, rah, rah. And then, 2 months later, tweet, lock Kyle Rittenhouse up and throw away the key. You're like, this is cognitive dissonance here. What are we talking about? Why would you tweet both those things and believe both those things?
I can tell you why.
Because Why? I
Because
legitimately
mass
don't know.
incarceration is the practice of throwing people of color in prison for nonviolent offenses. Things like drug possession, and they're getting 20 years for drug possession. They're getting trumped up charges for driving without a seatbelt. Some kid was accused of stealing a backpack, and he was in Rikers Island for 3 years before he could be seen, and he committed suicide. And so I'm like, so now that a kid traveled across state lines with an assault rifle that he wasn't allowed to have. His mom dropped him off. He brought an assault rifle to a place that he suspected was going to be violence because he probably wanted to do violence. He's been associated with white supremacists. He killed 2 people and injured a third. Now you want us to throw people in jail? Well, that's awfully convenient. Like, this is the shit that makes me liberal Hulk out.
I love this. This is great.
Yeah, I can talk about this forever.
I do not know.
Let's not.
Let's do. I want to hear it.
I do not know this judge's history as well as you do, Jarret, but just based off of what I have watched, I would say what I think that a judge probably should be. This guy is like watching this guy go from yelling at the prosecution angrily to dissecting a small point and dropping his anger for a moment. No, what I said was, wait, what did I say?
Yeah, he's done that. It's really funny.
I said that, and then going back to anger. I'm like, that's what it should be. It should be somebody who's like, I have to know exactly what the nuance is, and until I do that, I don't feel vindicated in bringing down the hammer of justice. I don't feel right in taking this strong of a stance. And he does that a lot, and from what I've seen, he's like, "No, I need to get into the minutia. I'm gonna bumble a little bit while I get the exact wording." And I think that's probably ideal in a judge.
Yeah.
I think you want somebody who is going to be like, I have to get into all the details, and then when I'm absolutely 100% certain, then I'm going to go in.
If he's only acting that way with this young white kid, which I don't have evidence that he does, that would be wrong. That's the best that I can say. But the way that he's acting currently, in my best judgment, is not wrong. It is, in fact, the standard for what we should be doing, black, brown, white, or whatever. I'm actually kind of in favor of not having the defendant be able to face their accusers. I kind of like the idea of all right, no name, no face. We're just gonna go based off the facts. I would love to just curiously try that out for a couple of years, see how that changes stats and stuff. But that's way too progressive out there. It doesn't even make it. No one's talking about that. But it's just a fun thing to think about. It's funny, Jarret. I've had several conversations with other liberal friends of mine who've taken funnily similar stances in the sense that when I go, well, what do you think when you watched X, Y, and Z, or when you saw A, B, and C? They're like, well, I don't watch it. And I was like, well, then what are we talking about? I don't watch any of this. I'm just mad about it. I was like, all right, well,
I want to be clear that I'm reading about it, that I'm not just putting my ear out the window and being like, what are the liberals saying? Okay, yeah.
But even just watching the trial as opposed to hearing it through a often opinionated news source, it's going to be better for you to actually characterize what happened and make up your mind about it.
I would agree.
I mean, potentially.
Primary source material versus secondary source material is what I'm talking about. I've watched every YouTube video I could of the night itself, like a year and a half, whatever ago, because I was just like, what the hell happened? I was very curious. I realized instantly that whatever the news was saying was almost the wrongest I've ever heard a news story be. I'm like, this is not even close. You guys are so on both sides weirdly wrong. Which was fascinating. I was like, how is everybody getting this wrong? And then I'd ask around, and it seems like so few people had seen it. Only Brett and I we talked for a while because I was like, he called me, and he's like, did you see this? I was like, I saw it. You want to talk about it? I was like, yeah. Because we're like, what did we just watch? It was really weird because it was so different. There was such cognitive dissonance from what I heard and what I read. So there was that, and then I just like watching the trial because, again, that's primary source material. This is like hours and hours of stuff that gets condensed down into either a 10-minute segment, a 5-minute segment, a tweet. I'm just never going to get the sense of what really happened there. So
I'm sorry if I flew off the handle.
No, I love it. This is great. This is all right. And you're 100% right, by the way, and you made a very good point of being like, we can parse out the details of wanting decriminalizing certain things. And if we do so, we should also release people, non-violent offenders specifically. And you saying this guy, if charged, is not a non-violent offender. This is a violent offender. And so that thus needed to be treated differently. So your point super valid there. 100% taken.
Oh boy. Sorry, I got to go back to Bruce Banner, liberal Bruce Banner now.
Wait, the Hulk is conservative?
Oh, I forget
I
that
never
you
got
guys
that.
you guys weren't on tour for this. This was something that I talked to about Leedy, due to Leedy and
right.
Steve and Rivers about. That sometimes I turn into like a liberal version of the Hulk, where I'm just like I just get so mad, you know. And then we started joking around about like what would a liberal Hulk look like, and he's like crush patriarchy, you know, things like that. So I assumed this was a character that was already in the Is This Anything lexicon.
That's funny.
You know?
I do like the
that drawing
idea
right now.
of right wing Hulk and left wing Hulk. I think those are both funny.
Well, ideally, you would want it to be like a Republican Bruce Banner and a liberal Hulk, because it's way funnier for the angry, smashy one to be liberal. You know?
Yeah.
He's like,
I think
"Crush
the Hulk would
patriarchy."
be conservative Hulk would just be like he'd be the exact same, except he would just be at monster truck rallies a lot. Like that's where he would do most of his smashing.
And people would be about it.
Yeah.
Be like, yeah. Alrighty.
Do you have an
Cool.
order
Got
for
an
today
order
there,
today?
Jared?
We sure do.
All
I just feel
right.
terrible now.
Oh,
Why?
man.
Why?
I don't know. I feel self-conscious whenever I get emotional about things.
You didn't seem emotional. You just seemed wrong.
Well, that's the thing, is that I get really hype about things, then I can't be as specific as I want to be, where I'm like, this is what I know, this is what I heard, this is what I read, you know, this is what I 100% read, but I want to make sure I'm remembering it correctly before I go to bat for it. But then I just get angry and just like flies out of my mouth, you know?
Well,
Right.
I, as your friend, know that even when you're emotional, it's like your heart is always in the right place. Like you're always, all of your anger is compassion based, even if it's misguided.
I think, Jarret, it's fine to be mad about this. It's a tough situation. It's not that liberal
Yeah.
people want Kyle Rittenhouse to have been shot by the cops or anything for being violent and then turning himself in. It's that liberal people are angry at that weird difference between a person of color doing that and a white person doing it. But you can't necessarily be like, why didn't they shoot him? Like you can't want someone to have died. It's just like there's no right here, because also those rioters were rioting over someone who had just been shot in the back, and we should all be focusing on that person who is brutally killed in a moment of police brutality. But instead we're all so focused on this other trial, which has taken head because it's just infinitely crazier. It's a fucked up situation.
I totally agree, Leedy. That was my, I think, take or point last week when I brought it up. I was like, to me, this is just white people sort of, having a little fracas, as when we should be talking about, because there's like 4 white people involved. And we're like, what are you guys doing? There's all these black people out there who are legitimately more upset than you are and have not found themselves in this situation. Why can't you get your act together, white people? What's the matter with you? Talk to your people.
I'm sorry. I just laughed because I remember the joke that I'm bringing today, and I'm just like, oh boy, this is just going to be more of this. and based on the order, I'm going first.
Yay!
So we're just going to keep this fucking train going.
Let's do it, baby. All right, what do you got?
Our order this week is Jarret, Brett, Rob. Jarret, Brett, Rob is the order.
All right.
Jabber.
All right, you guys
Jabber.
ready to talk about race? Huh?
Yes. Mhm. Critically.
Oh boy. Okay. This is a joke that I tried to make work a couple of times. I got a new iteration. I don't know if you guys have ever heard it.
The word iteration, yeah.
God damn it.
It means a bunch of different versions.
I
Anyways,
see.
I was on Wikipedia the other day. I learned that there's only been white men on the moon. Did you guys know that? There's only been 12 people on the moon, and they've all been white men. There's also no cops on the moon, and I don't think that's a coincidence. I think if a personal cover ever tried to go up there, that the NYPD would begin their rocket program that day. They're just like, we gotta get up there, just make sure that everything's okay, The moon is a little white planet that only white men have been on, and a few of them play golf up there, so it's basically a giant country club.
Oh, golf. It's so funny.
I think that's why they stopped doing moon missions, because just like a country club, there were probably some Jews who wanted to go there, and NASA was like, no. Let's just not, and nobody goes there.
That's great.
Don't they already have their laser?
I was trying to think of a
enough.
way to work that in,
Yeah.
but I was also like, is that like common knowledge enough? Like, is that still part of people's front
Yeah.
brains, But anyways, that's what I got, y'all.
Dude, I love it. That's so, especially the
was
golfing
really
thing.
funny.
Once you said the golfing, I was like, that ties it all together. That's great. Like when Michael Jackson did the moon walk, they're like, you better be white soon because we're not going to accept this.
Great tag. Great tag.
And the moon has all that, has all those blemishes, because white people age poorly. I don't know. I'm trying. I didn't have anything, but I started the sentence and I tried to finish it. What are they called? POCs? Something?
Pox?
Well,
Face
pox.
pox?
Well,
Pockets?
Face pox, yeah.
Is there another
If the
white
moon was-
activity?
if the moon was black, there'd be no craters because black
Yeah.
don't crack.
That's good. I like
Because
that.
black don't crack.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think there are black people. They're just on the dark side of the moon.
Well, that's why we've never been to the dark side of the moon.
Just racism?
Yeah,
no, we
just
don't.
racism.
I'm not going to
It's
that
probably
neighborhood.
really nice over there. Yeah. Is there another white activity besides golfing? Because it's sort of like, or maybe like something else that happens at country clubs that I could then tag that country club bit
White-
with.
All I'm picturing is the guy in a full-on astronaut suit, but with a sweater tied at the chest.
That's funny.
Do you think it'd be funny if, like, I think maybe there's been like one person of color up there because somebody needed a caddy.
Oh,
Legend of Bagger Vance, is that a thing?
I never
Will
saw the
Smith?
movie.
I never saw it either, but I think Will Smith was a caddy in it.
That's a good.
I also never saw it, but as a liberal, I have some very strong opinions about it.
I read an article about it by the Huffington
There you
Post,
go, there you
and
go.
I hate that movie.
Brett was on it. Rob was
I
still
was
figuring it out.
I was
like,
excellent
what?
self
How is that possible?
self burn.
All right. Anything else with this bit, y'all?
I'm sure there
I feel like
is.
there's another something else. I
Yeah,
don't
I'm
want to
sure
quite
there
move
is.
on yet. Country
Right.
club, golf, Trump, Mar-a-Lago,
I feel like I'm in his brain.
Mars-a-Lago. Mars-a-Lago. I don't know.
Mar-a-Lago. Yeah, the only thing I can think of to add to this is like, what are the justifications for the NYPD wanting to go to the moon besides the fact that there's going to be a person of color up there? Like, what do they say to people, even though the real reason is because they want to go up there and arrest them?
I see.
Or like, what are some other country club things that white people could be doing up on the moon, like playing bridge or, sniffing brandy or something?
Yeah.
We just got a call from a moon person that said there was a suspicious person in the neighborhood.
You fit the description of an astronaut, and it's just like a.
I think Mars definitely will have black people because we're always scared of Mars. We're like, Mars attacks. The man from Mars, like there's a Martian. Like for some reason we're so obsessed. Like, oh, I think I saw a Martian. He looked really Martian.
I really do like the astronaut thing too. Is there maybe a tie-in with hoodies there?
Ooh, yeah,
Like,
they had
hoodies
the
is a
visor
hot-
down on his
Yeah.
in his space helmet.
Or they just call it a hoodie? 'Cause
What
the black
what you wearing that hoodie for? You mean my helmet? Hey, watch me put those hands, buddy.
Pull over that moon rover.
And the moon is the one place that white people can feel like they can jump. Like, don't let black people up here.
They can finally dunk.
12
White
white
player
men
thing.
have been on the moon, which is 2 basketball teams and 2 people on the bench. That's 2 basketball teams and the coaches or the refs or something. That's super funny. Just like, can we just have this, please?
We're having so much fun up here.
We're dominating for the first time in decades.
I think if you say, like, I think the reason they've never had black people on is because it's the only place that white people can dunk. I think that's enough of a justification to get to that joke.
Oh, dude, that's really funny. Yeah.
that one guy from the Vegas show is gonna hunt you down.
Oh, yeah. Another white people versus black people differences. Oh, boy.
White people on the moon versus black people on the moon differences we've heard a million times.
White people on the moon are like this. But black people on the moon are like this. All right. Next up, we got Patrick.
Okay, all right. Here's an old tweet that I think is very funny. I've never been able to turn it into a joke. Maybe you guys can figure it out. Here's the scene. I get pulled over by a cop. I say, "Oh, don't worry, officer. I'm a chef. That's a kitchen knife." And the officer says, "And that?" I go, kitchen gun. Funny image, funny tweet. I don't know how to turn that into a joke.
You're right. How do you?
I've tried saying
Quickly
it actually
justify it.
happened. I don't think it's believable. Tried it with the premise of I'm not a good liar. This might be too much work.
Well, what I'm thinking about is because kitchen gun is it's super funny, but it also doesn't really track because you're not a chef.
Correct.
And so I'm wondering if there is another thing that a cop could find in your car that you could explain away with an occupation or something. But that's obviously that's the big work of this joke. That's like somebody pointing to, Earth and being like, an office building should go here. All right, cool. Whew,
Right.
I'm taking a break.
It's so hard because I like the joke, and instead of trying to come up with tags, we're trying to fit a square peg in a round hole. It feels like it's like this thing is a nice complete tweet. I think I actually enjoy reading it, perhaps even over listening to it, maybe. And then the justification shouldn't be that long. It should be, as you said, like I'm not a great liar. I got pulled over by a cop once. Like if there's anything more than that, then it's like, then we have a bad setup to punchline ratio almost.
Right,
So I'm just
right.
this feels good. And if it's not working with that justification, I don't know.
Yeah. All right.
Rob
We'll try
just
something
said-
else.
Don't.
Rob just said, "This is not anything."
No, he said this is something else. Okay, here I'll try a different one here. Women love to brag about how long they were giving birth or how big their baby was, and I think that's why they wear baby Bjorns, is so they can wear their baby around their neck like a medal.
I like that. It could almost be like the people that wear their marathon medal for too long.
Right.
Yeah.
Where it's just like, look, the marathon was last week and that dude is still wearing the medallion. You think that's bad? Karen's still got her baby around her neck.
Yeah.
That's very funny.
That's so great because that it shifts the blame to you. Like you're whoever's saying that is the fucking dum-dum, which is really
Right.
great. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
You think that's
great.
bad? That's excellent. Great rewrite there, Jarret. Hope it puts you in a better mood.
Oh, you guys don't need to be so nice to me just because I'm fucking cranky.
We like you.
And I like you guys.
And you're doing a very good job of staying level,
Yeah.
despite your living situation.
And his throat is in pain right now.
Yeah. I'm sorry to hear that.
He's
by
got
the way.
This
silent-
is starting to feel patronizing, guys. It's starting to feel a little patronizing.
I mean, the fact that you're even speaking is, you deserve a baby around your neck.
Yeah. Join
And
our
that bit
Patreon.
that you started with the I'm not crazy, you're great. That was great, Jarret.
Yeah.
That was so good.
Because I liked it then, but I'm just remembering now.
I was thinking about all the funny. Why don't we take a little trip down memory lane? All the things we love about Jarret.
But let's not cross state lines to do so, because that would be a no-no.
Because no.
No, we don't do that.
Handsome, funny, caring, confident.
All true.
All right. Well, I think that's good enough for me. Let's get over.
Are you sure? I
to-
feel like we didn't do anything for that.
I mean,
second joke.
Grand Slam Berenstein hasn't made his appearance in quite a while, but I think he just did.
Knocked one out of the
you
park there.
Handsome, compassionate, funny man, you. No, I really do think you fixed exactly. You made that joke work. You know what? You did such a good job, Jarret. Why don't you pitch the Patreon?
No, I'm just gonna screw it up.
Oh no, come on, Jarret. You always pitch it. That's why we always have you do it, because
I
you're the
just get
best
so
at it.
mad. I just get so mad when I'm pitching the Patreon.
Yeah.
And I say all these things.
No, you always do so well. You know all the stuff. Rob and I, we can't remember it. We're like,
I like to be really-
patronage.
I like to be very precise about what's on the Patreon. But I get so worked up, I start adding things that don't exist. So, like episodes we didn't do.
No, that's not true.
It's not true at all. Jarret.
Jarret.
Stop. Stop this bit. I hate this bit.
Jarret.
I hate this. I hate it.
But you know what he loves?
The
The
Patreon.
Patreon.
I love the patrons, guys. Very supportive. Patreon.com/ITApod. the high writing challenges, story time, ITA the movies. I just put up an episode where it was just me, Rob, and Leedy waiting for Brett to show up. Does he? He doesn't. But we had a great time anyways. Patreon.com/ITA pod. Support the show for as little as $1 a month. Support the show. We got all this extra content. You don't need it. If you just want to support the show, support the show. But we got the extra stuff if you want it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, I never told you this, but I fully expected that in my message I was conveying I'm not coming. And when you guys were like, "Oh, we still recorded it and it's an episode now," I was like, we were just, hope waiting. When you said we were calling it Waiting for Brett, I was like, oh, I didn't know that you guys were still recording until now and that you expected me to come. But funny. It all worked out.
If I were to go back and look at the messages, I think that it would be the sort of message that you get when someone's like, I'm trying to fix my internet.
You know what? You're right. You're right, Jarret. No more.
Time for another episode of...
Brett, did you look extra gothic on that one episode, Brett?
Right!
Suddenly, not so sympathetic to the old Jarret Bear. We were on a break.
All right. My jokes.
Brian.
Here's one. I'm a little upset right now. A friend of mine had some, I don't know, I guess it's pretty serious news. She was diagnosed, like clinically, she's got body dysmorphia. She's like obese, but she's like, I'm beautiful, which is clearly wrong. She doesn't see it. It's so weird. And we take her to the doctors, and they're like, you're overweight, and she's like, more of me to love. And I'm like, oh my God, it's getting worse. It's getting so much worse. I love that face. All right.
I don't care for this. I don't care for this joke.
Fat shaming's back. Fat shaming's back.
I like the joke. I think you could do it in a way that's a little bit more of a misdirection. If you could say, isn't body dysmorphia, awful, and then get from the crowd, then I feel like really you being a dick is like, it's more purposeful, it's a little bit more artful, like then you're like, I'm really doing this to subvert your expectations, and then I feel like it would be, you're getting a little bit more of the funny out of it, and then you can kind of be like, remember, you guys said it was bad.
Yeah, is there any way to intellectually break this down, or even just like put my cards on the table first and be like, body dysmorphia is just when you have an unhealthy and incorrect view of your body, but it always almost goes one way and never goes the other way, and then blah blah blah. That way,
I think that's perfect.
More okay.
Then you're just like, you just justified I'm getting to absurdity. It would never go that way. I think that's great, and I think that's very funny, and I don't even think that's fat
problematic.
Problematic.
Yeah, I don't.
I want to add on that my friend did just go recently on a diet. She didn't tell me, but I can tell because she has a lemon wedge in her hair now. Went on a diet. She has a lemon wedge.
That's a Diet Pepsi. It's how they indicate when you get a Diet Pepsi at it's a service industry joke.
I thought of it earlier at lunch.
I
just threw it in there.
I've been out of the game for too long. I've been out of the waiting game for too long.
Is there any way I can make lemon wedge work to know that someone's on a diet? Because it was really funny to me when my Diet Pepsi came today.
I think I need to believe that your friend has a lemon wedge in her head. And that's the hardest for me to swallow.
It is pretty tough. Okay.
Well, I'd be more like, okay, so I worked in the service industry for years, and the way you would indicate which one is the Diet Pepsi versus the Pepsi, you just put a lemon wedge in it. My friend recently told me while I was cutting up a lemon that she was going on a diet, and I was like, old habits die hard. Maybe that maybe not be it, but that's more of an approach.
Yeah, I do like that. My version requires instant recognition. And the fact that, I guess, Jarret, who was a server for many years, didn't even have that recognition, that surprises me to the point where maybe I shouldn't do it.
It's out of my brain. Yeah. I think if you got me while I was still working, as a waiter, I would have been like on it like, like wet on rice,
Mhm.
as the expression goes.
You know, it's also
On it like Jarret Berenstein today, because we all love you.
Nicely done, Leedy.
Thank you. I unmuted myself for that. Goodbye.
I was thinking of, just thought of now of like, you know, I offered my friends some food and they were like, no, I'm on a diet. And it's like, maybe it's, I'm like, I never know when my friends are actually like, I wish there was some way I could just tell so I don't get into that situation. Wish they just like at restaurants when they put the lemon wedge, like I wish they could just wear a lemon wedge like on their ear. Just so I'm like, oh, diet you. Diet you doesn't want me to pick you up an extra slice of cake. Diet you is not going to split this pizza with me. Got it. That's diet you. Something about that.
Yeah.
Diet you makes me laugh too. Oh, that's Diet Brett.
God, that's really funny. Diet bread.
Diet Brett doesn't want pizza. Right. Okay. I can tell because there's a lemon on him.
Ooh, I have a service question for both of you guys.
All right.
Asking for the check early, is that helpful? It seems to me like it would be, but I also don't want to offend anybody. I assume that the check comes always at the end of the meal because they don't want anybody to feel rushed. But oftentimes I'm just like, I want to eat here, and then as soon as I'm done eating, I want to pay as soon as possible. I want to get
Walk out the
just
door.
get out of here.
Yeah.
And we did that a couple times just because we did have to get going, and I was like, hey, I'm so sorry. Can we get the check with the food? And it was just so helpful. I'm like, why don't we do that all the time?
Yeah.
When you pay a waiter is their favorite part of the meal.
Great. Okay, cool.
Because that's when they get their money also, and it means they don't have to deal with you anymore.
Yeah.
You know? So it's just like, yeah, perfect. I love that.
Yeah, there's no downside to that, right?
There's no downside. I've done it. People have done it to me many times. It's mostly like a one-person thing. I do it for sure when I'm alone. I'll just sit down. Oh, and the meal comes. You could bring my check. Oh, great. And then they bring the meal, the check. I pay the check. And now, like Jarret said, I don't have to worry about them. They don't have to worry about me. I'm paid. I'm eating my food. They'll check in on me, be like, is everything good? You need a drink? But beyond that, we're like, that transaction's over.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
Love it. They know I don't want dessert. Like, that's easy
Right.
too, so they don't have to worry about that concept. It's good all around. I love it. I recommend it to everybody.
The other reason I want to do it is I want to also establish like, hey, I don't want you to be worried that I'm not going to tip you or that I'm not going to tip you well. I would like to establish that as early as possible, so you don't have to be wondering like if I have a weird request like, oh, can you do a sliced tomato instead of toast, and I'll pay extra for it, whatever. Just if I'm being a little bit annoying that way, I just want to establish like, hey, you don't have to worry that I'm going to be an asshole.
Yeah.
I just want to put them at ease, and then I'll probably get better service too that way.
Well, what if you do that, you leave a 20% tip, and then they get so cold to you, and you're just like, did I not tip enough? Was that... What did I do wrong? I
Well,
thought...
good. Then I know their true colors, and they knew mine. All our cards are on the table. Okay, so back to your joke.
Oh, yeah.
How would you say it now? Did you want to do the diet joke, or did you want to do the? I feel like there's more depth to the first joke, the body dysmorphia.
The body
joke.
dysmorphia one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could chat about that more as well.
I mean, it is a little problematic. This is not my issue, of course, but the thing that I see all the time is people who are obese talking about the way that the medical community misdiagnoses them because they're obese, and how the body positivity movement is about sort of accepting the way that you look if it is not a medical condition, if it's not something you need to worry about, if you don't have high cholesterol, if you don't have hypertension or anything, all the diseases that can be associated with being overweight. And so to sort of like throw the negative connotation back on being obese, that seems like very dicey area to me.
I think it's time. That's my...
Ooh, time's up.
Yeah, I think that
I
think that we've like dipped. We're like we're so far down here as being like whatever, just be 1,000 pounds. That I'm like, yeah, maybe it's time, just maybe for fun, for giggles, that it's time to go ahead and make fun of that again because I just find it funny.
Yeah, but also isn't like you could be obese and not have any of those problems, but is it not a scientifically proven fact that being obese will increase the likelihood that you will develop those problems until
That
the point
is-
where they are not reversible?
That is my understanding of it, but I think there is some new contention. There is some new data to suggest. I'm not,
I'll have
like I
to
said,
read
this
up
isn't
on that.
this is not my issue, so I'm not, gonna go to bat for either side here.
Maybe there's something to, because I'm just poking around in the dark here, but like, because body dysmorphia, I have a joke about body dysmorphia as well, just because like I wouldn't claim to have body dysmorphia only in that I can just be pretty aggressively like shitty to myself for various reasons, So the one thing that I did say was sometimes if I think I'm looking good, sometimes I look myself in the mirror and I think I look good, I'll take a photo just so that my body dysmorphia has like a second crack at it later, and I can be like, no, nope. That's something that I've said before. That I thought was funny and liked, but I just kind of wanted to dip my toe into that water.
This is an unrelated idea, but I feel like I have body dysmorphia for other people where like they'll be like, "You look really good," and I'm like, "You're wrong." I'm I'll have my shirt off and I'll just eating garbage or whatever, and Leedy will be like, "You're so hot," and I'm like, no. I'm like, you have body dysmorphia for me.
Oh, that's okay. That's what you're saying. Right.
Yeah.
You have body dysmorphia. Yeah. Actually, I think that's where my head was at originally, was like when other people are like, you look so good. And then I was like, but they don't, or something like that. I'm like, I don't think so. But that doesn't really make it. It's funny. That's funny. Third party body dysmorphia.
That's what it is. Third party body dysmorphia.
Yeah. I think you have.
Can I tell you guys a super embarrassing story about me from when I was in high school?
Hell yeah. Let's do it.
It's only slightly related. I have like a little divot in my chest. My chest plate goes out a little bit, so it looks like I have one slightly larger pectoral on the left side than on the right side.
Oh, I think that's just a radiator leak.
I should have had the super check out my chest also.
Just have that guy lay on it. It'll even out.
We're gonna have the chest guy come here. This is a 2-day job.
Yeah, I got a really busy couple of weeks. Let's hold off.
Additionally, the light in my house growing up in the bathroom was straight down. And if you know anything about down lighting, it makes your pectoral muscles look bigger because it casts a larger shadow on underneath.
It makes me look terrible.
So when I was, I think like 12 or 13 years old or something.
Look at that chest.
Yeah, look at that. Look at them pecs.
Oh, conservative.
When I was like 13 or something, I would go to the bathroom. I would have my shirt off. I would look at myself in the mirror and be like, I think I'm fucking ripped. I decided to take a picture of myself with my shirt off to see if I could figure out, like, am I ripped or am I not ripped? And I forgot about it. And then I took a whole bunch more pictures. This is before digital cameras, remember? This is film. And I took a whole bunch more cameras, like my friends at school and everything. And then I got those pictures developed. And then I handed them out. And I was like, hey, check it out. It's all of us friends and everything. I didn't remember. There was like a clowning class that me and my friends had taken. And like I took a bunch of pictures. Like, oh, do you have the pictures from the clowning class in there? And I was like, yeah. And I just remember like a girl going through there and being like, who took these pictures? And I was like, I took them. And then she like gave him back to me weird. And then I went home and looked and I was like, oh no.
But were you ripped? Or was
I was not ripped. I was not. That's the worst part about it. Is I was just like a skinny little white kid who was I had a ponytail at the time.
I remember.
And I was wearing baggy black corduroys and nothing else. Just staring myself in the mirror like, that. Ugh. And the fact that I was handing these pictures to people as if to say there's a surprise in there. Surprise in there for everybody.
It's like that gag in Scary Movie where he hands her the pictures of the murder scene.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, what do you think of these? You recognize anything? And she's like, no. And it's just murder scenes. And then it's him in his underwear. And he's like, and what do you think of that one? She's like, no. How about that one? He's like, the next one?
No.
Like,
Okay.
I wonder if the person who wrote that went to my high school and
oh god
tells that story.
I like in your clowning class, the teacher's like, hey, you kids clowning around. Great job. You kids. Taking things too seriously. Knock it off.
All right, back to Rob's bits.
Yeah, so, you've already given me some good stuff to chew on here. I like the alternate approach where I'm just sort of breaking this down intellectually here. I don't know. There's something about wading around in the body weight waters that does not, that I'm just curious about something like that. I know Leedy's shaking her head. She's like, stop, no.
No.
You keep on being like, no, don't do
that thing that girls do when they have a crush on somebody and they'll like practice writing their name with their last name. Leedy's doing that just like with the word canceled. And it's like Rob canceled. Rob Ryan canceled.
You can't take
Ryan canceled.
You can't take Leedy's facial expressions seriously though, because sometimes she just is making facial expressions based off of what she's drawing.
Oh, yeah.
Like sometimes the facial expression of the person, or she's just like shaking her head at like, I can't believe I'm drawing a dick in a wedding gown.
Well, I'll show you what I was drawing. You can tell me if I can make that face at the very end of the thing.
Oh, nice.
Okay.
All right.
So your interest is actually in the time frame of when it's okay to be less body positive.
I think it's not for Rob to say, though. I like this joke as a joke itself, but I don't think that Rob is the man who is like, I say when we go. It's time to go, comedians. Let's make fun of people who are obese again. It's time.
It's such a funny, like, interesting topic for discussion, because I say that as a comic that I am and we are collectively, like, it doesn't, to me, it's just like whatever. I just get this is neither here nor there. I have no interest in like making anyone feel bad, and if jokes ever did that to people, like, and at least certainly en masse, I'd be like, all right, that's not necessary, right? No joke is worth that. I guess but separately of that, I find fascinating is that every once in a while I get this feeling in me, and it's just a innate sense that something has gone like too far for some reason in my brain. And I get this urge to be like, I have to make fun of that. It's weird. It's weird that everybody's blank. Whatever that blank is, liberal thoughts, conservative thoughts, the president, the Pope, a poor person, I'm just like, why is this happening? And that's it. And I just listen to it, and I want to feed it, and then find out that I'm wrong or find out that I'm right. And that's the way I continue to be edgy in the sense of the truest sense of the word, and that you're on the edge of being like, I think this is turning, and I just want to be on the forefront of whatever that feeling is. That's all. And like I said, I don't even connect it to my this other dysmorphia thing.
It's not Rob establishing it, from my understanding. This is the time, but he's saying I'm observing it. My comic instinct is kicking in, saying, I think it's the time. Is it? That's his instinct, and I definitely agree with that. And like even like Me Too jokes now seem more palatable. I wouldn't even say Me Too. I wouldn't discuss it around, for the next 6 months after the Me Too movement started. I was like, I'm not going to make a joke about it. I'm not going to make a reference to it, because it was such a loaded thing. Now I can make a Me Too joke when it's appropriate, as long as it's not cavalier. So it is just, part of this art form is catering to what the mass consciousness is. And it shifts pretty rapidly nowadays because of the internet and the instant exchange of information. So it's more of a skill to hone, is grabbing onto that and seeing what jokes can I make.
Yeah,
and I think it's fascinating.
Excellently put, Brett. Yeah, and I don't mind. And when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'm like, oh yeah, well. That's why it's fun to have you guys to come to with
3
things.
months.
I have no idea. I'm not a comedian. I'm just saying what I'm thinking. I'm just saying what
exactly.
Rob,
I love what you're thinking. That's exactly what I'm getting at the heart of. And like, my goal would be to get something that works for everybody, that actually is palatable, where for lack of a better term, where the biggest person in the room would be like, that's good though. Something like that, and be like, I get what you're doing, and it's funny. And when I can do that, I feel great. I've accomplished something in the name of comedy. And when I don't, then, I just go back to the drawing board and try and figure it out again.
Yeah. I would say, based off of what I think the body positivity movement is, like, this premise would be better received now, definitely, than it would 3 or 4 years ago. So I think that I would agree with your observation that we're getting there. I think you're a little bit over the edge with your approach right now, but I definitely think it's coming if it's not here.
But I love the natural reactions. I have you guys all on tape. Jarret's just like, which is great.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad that I have that for the record. For when this show goes on trial, I want my face to be there going, oh, not me. Oh.
Unfortunately, none of your friends are going to watch the primary source footage, so they'll never see your face.
But the tweets will say Jarret looked very unhappy about this. Was he unhappy that Rob wasn't going far enough?
That's for that conservative dickhead judge to decide.
That's right.
I just feel as though, I mean, I certainly felt like, oh, this is a joke that's not, I wouldn't do this on stage, Rob. But I'm going to laugh anyways because I recognize what Rob is going for. You know, I recognize the misdirection there. And so I'm just like, oh, I see it, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, my butthole's a little less tight than...
But I love, of course, like cockamamie idea came up with yesterday, and that's it. And like have no time to think about it. Yeah, I'll bring it to you guys because that's what comics do. It's funny. No, it's not good for the stage yet. And if you said it on stage, you know, you'd get the live feedback then, and you'd be like, all right, I see what's going on. Cool, man. Cool, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Man, Steve has made a bunch of appearances on this episode.
When he's on his phone, he's just like on autopilot going wherever. So he just floats in and out.
Hi, Steve.
Yeah, get our SEO up.
All right. That's it for Rob Ryan, everybody. Right? All right. Well, in that case, it's time for Leedy to show us her drawing. She did some drawings during the show, and she's gonna show them to us. When I started that song, I was trying to go for more of like a circusy feel, and that's not. I don't think that's ended up being where it was. But that's fine.
Oh, you were trying to go for a Kyle Rittenhouse trial feel?
All right, first up, I've got this picture.
Oh, no!
No, Jarret.
He's
That's
ripped.
so accurate to what I looked like back then. You have the terrible 13-year-old mustache and the awful sideburns. The hair looks way too good, and I look happy. Those are the only criticisms that I have. It just needs to look like
sexier. That looks
ratty
great.
and gross, and you just need to look unhappy. You know, generally.
Okay,
but yeah, there you go.
Oh yeah.
Next questioning, am I ripped?
If you were curious, that was what I was drawing when I was making faces. So this no. I don't know. That's
Look
up
at
to
those.
you guys to figure out.
Look at those nips. Those nips are.
I also had a unibrow back then, so you should. You just need to make me look worse, basically. There we go. Oh,
Yeah.
that is
great.
embarrassing. God, I hope I have that picture somewhere. I'd love to show it to you guys.
Yeah, we know. And so does everybody you went to school with.
We get the pictures. We're like, what the heck is all these clowning pictures, you idiot? We're just mad that you included those. We thought there were just be pictures of you with your other shirt on.
I learned how to juggle. Look.
All right, on to actual drawings from the show. Here we go.
Woo!
This podcast be like.
Hurting cats.
And I have
Yes.
how we see the pictures of Brett. How Jarret sees the pictures of Brett.
That's great. Oh my god.
They're quite different. They're quite different.
Those
Those are great.
I would have loved it if you had
images.
made that a little more hot topic-y, like
you're
with mascara,
absolutely right.
you know.
Oh, I like this. I like this new segment where we give notes to Leedy's drawings in real time.
Perfect.
There you go.
That's better.
I love it.
All right, good. Hang on.
Chris
Good.
Angels, ITA. I was about to be like, wow, Leedy, you really have gotten my face down. Like you're really drawing it better. And then I was like, oh, we're dating. You see my face a lot.
That's a very good point.
I really like the choker. Oh, my mouth hurts.
That's good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oy.
Then I have this drawing, which Jarret has already
Yeah.
seen. That's Liberal Hulk.
Liberal Hulk. Liberal Hulk.
That's
That
awesome.
one existed before this.
That's great.
And then I've got Warped House. Then I have the country club astronaut.
Oh, that is so funny.
That's great.
And last but not least, lemon wedge on the head.
You really captured Rob's delight and stubbornness to not let this joke go in his eyes.
Oh my god.
That's so perfect. That's exactly how I felt.
Get it? Wow, Leedy, excellent.
Yeah,
oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh.
And that is it for me.
Thank you so much, Leedy. That was
Oh,
amazing. LeedyCorbin.com, patreon.com/LeedyCorbin. Check out her stuff.
Thanks so much for watching. Check back every Monday for new episodes, or you can listen wherever you enjoy podcasts. If you want to help support the show, tell your friends how much you like Is This Anything? Or get involved, like an episode, share, comment, subscribe. If you want more Is This Anything, you gotta join our Patreon at patreon.com/ITAPod. We have a ton of awesome exclusive content on there, and you can join for as little as $1 a month. Check out the links in the description, and hopefully we'll see you next week.